Hey, what's up everybody? I wanted to ease into the new year on this channel by doing something fun and that I've been really wanting to do, especially with the announcement of season 3 of The Wheel of Time coming out this spring. What better time to go back and rewatch season 1? And I actually did just go back and do this recently on my own and kind of found a little bit of a newfound appreciation for the first season of the show, even with all of its flaws and unfortunate filming circumstances here and there. I thought it would be fun to go back and rewatch season 1 again with you guys, just so I can point out those little things and moments in the show that I've come to appreciate, and some puzzle pieces that I've kind of managed to fit together with the storyline now that season 2 has been completed, and we have a little bit of hints coming as to what's in store for season 3. And I've always said, even in my season 1 review video that I did back when the show first came out, I'm always willing to go with the show writers when they're making changes to the plot in the storyline and having to switch things up a little bit, as long as I, as a book reader, can kind of see what foundations they're trying to build and like what pieces they might be trying to put into play to pay off further down the line, if that makes sense. So now that we've kind of seen some of that build up and payoff starting to happen, I thought it would be even more interesting to go back and rewatch season 1 with you guys, just to make note of those things. So get comfortable, get a beverage, and let's get into it. Now, I've never done a video, like reaction type video like this before, so for once I will apologize in advance if the editing quality on this is poor, because I don't have any prior experience or skills with that type of thing, so just bear with me. And that was my cat rubbing on the phone tripod stand, but here we go. Let's begin episode 1 of season 1 of The Wheel of Time.
The world is broken. Many, many years ago, men who were born with great power believed they could cage darkness itself. The arrogance. When they failed, the seas boiled. Mountains were swallowed up.
I will say I'm not a huge fan of the design of the rings for the show, just because for me personally I always wanted a ring that's just the Ouroboros snake biting its own tail, but I see why for show purposes we need to make it much more prominent and obvious and visible that there are different ajas and different divisions amongst the White Tower, and they are represented by different colors, just as an overt way to show, not tell us, especially non-book readers, that this person is wearing blue, so they therefore are probably aligned with this aja. This person's wearing yellow, so they're probably a yellow sister, and so on and so forth. And again, with these two scenes, we're definitely starting off much more differently than in the books, which I'm still hoping that maybe, just maybe, even in season 3, that we might, now that the character of Ishamael was introduced and we saw him play out with his storyline somewhat, that maybe we'll still go and get that flashback that opened up Eye of the World with him confronting Blue Theron, and Blue Theron earning his nickname of the Kinslayer, because we haven't seen that play out in the show yet. We haven't really emphasized Luce Theramon being called the Kinslayer along with the dragon because of the things that the taint on Sidene did to him. So I'm hoping we'll still see that scene play out kind of like it does here, where we are seeing a man who can channel, having it pointed out to him that the madness has taken hold of him and he is not experiencing reality. So yeah, we're getting a little bit of hints of that here in this opening scene with the Red Sisters, just to establish the foundations of this world and its beliefs.
You see what we've come here to do.
So this is just kind of a good establishing scene to show non-book readers especially that people can channel magic in this world, both women and men, but that something is going on with the men who can channel, and they can't always utilize the power without going insane, and that this is the power structure that we have in place in the world currently as a result of that with the Red Sisters and Red Aja.
It's not him.
At first I wasn't really sure how I felt in Season 1 and Season 2 about having Lan and Moraine as much more prominent main storyline characters, but I've always maintained that I can see why they're doing that with having such a big name in the forefront as Rosamund Pike cast as Moraine. And for show purposes, and again, the show not tell, I do like it because, as I said in my Shadow Rising breakdown, we hardly ever get to see anything in the book from Moraine's perspective. It's always from Rand or the other Emmons Fielders or even villain characters. We got one brief chapter of some of Moraine's POV in the Shadow Rising, but other than that, we don't really see a lot of what she's thinking or what she's doing behind the scenes or like off screen in the books. So as someone who always really liked Moraine as a character, I do like that we get more of her and her perspective on things in the show, and I think it's necessary. Again, another really excellent world building shot and like kind of foundation establishing scene here with Nynaeve and Egwene in the Two Rivers, seeing some of, again, this matriarchal, feminine dominated society where we have the women's circle really taking charge of things.
Never alone. So when the dark surrounds you and you see no light,
and this is not something, again, that we see in the books. We know that a girl being able to braid her hair is a sign of transitioning from girlhood into womanhood, because it's talked about and discussed a lot. And Egwene is very proud to be able to wear her hair in the Two Rivers braid, but we don't get any of this like intricacies and inner workings of the women's circle. And Egwene is a character who's going to be undergoing a lot of changes and a lot of different rites of passage throughout the entire series. This is just going to be one of many for her. So I think it's a good at establishing her character and how she's able to literally keep her head above water when there's a lot of things and a lot of tumult going on and a lot of danger happening around her. This is also a really good metaphor for Saidar itself and the way that Saidar works. I'll pause here briefly. But Egwene having to surrender to the flow of the river and literally just let go and lay back and go with the flow of the river is a metaphor for how women channeling Saidar works. Because they say that you have to literally be the banks controlling the flow of the river. You kind of can't always control the power itself, you just have to be a vessel to channel it, if that makes sense. And so you're just the vessel and the bank of the river that's controlling and directing the flow. But in terms of actually tapping into the one power, You have to just kind of embrace it, surrender to it, and let it flow through you. Whereas with Men and Sidene, it's kind of the exact opposite. They have to literally wrest control of the power and wrangle with it, especially with it being tainted. Ah, Rand.
How'd you get the
First
water
shot
tank?
of Rand,
Carried it.
Caramel
The
Thorn.
brandy.
And
Let's
this
stay down.
again is, I
Another
think,
good drink.
also a really good character establishing shot for Rand, especially, you know, we see he's very alert, aware of his
More warmth,
surroundings, which you have to be when you're kind of growing
Sometimes
up
been pushing them down for
on the
a long
edge
time.
of civilization, like him and his dad do, away from the town. But I also really have to
You were just
point
tiny, we
out
let you out in these
the
woods alone to look for berries.
costume design
You'd always
for
save
this
a basket
scene
of
as
them
something I
around to take to
also
the
really
glen.
like, because Rand here is
Sounds like I
wearing
used
this
to be a real
knitted
sap.
sweater, and that makes sense for him as a character because him and his dad are sheep herders, and we'll see him teased about that throughout the entire series, even after he becomes Dragon Reborn and this all-powerful person in the world. He's still taunted about just being this backwater sheep herder from the Two Rivers. So I like that we get that little like hint in his character and like just what they do for a living, that he's wearing this kind of rough hand knitted wool sweater.
Worried we might be without apples brandy this bell time.
Wouldn't want them to remember a minute of it.
Right, gentlemen and lady, I want to thank you all very much for bearing with
I mean,
me.
they also did a really good job with the casting for this show. I did say in my season 1 initial review video that Matt was the only one that didn't really jive with me in season 1, just as far as his portrayal. I get like where they were trying to go with his writing, with the writing of his character in the show, and just really emphasizing that he is not as well off as a lot of the other characters. Like, none of them are wealthy, but he's just like kind of a few tiers even lower on the ladder socioeconomically in the Two Rivers. But I wish we'd seen more of the funny rapscallion Matt, like we get hints of with his portrayal in season 2 here, to establish him before he goes on that like darker inner mental path.
Let's play. No? No? Fine.
Not for you guys.
Daniel?
I mean, we do get a few little hints here at his characterization with the love of gambling, being known for kind of playing tricks on others, and then him kind of going over to flirt with this other woman here in the tavern. But it wasn't enough for me.
My girl, you're back.
And then Egwene here is the innkeeper / mayor's daughter, and her clothing, as we'll see throughout season 1, does reflect that. Her clothing is maybe a little bit tier higher than Rand and some of the other villagers, because her family is probably the most prominent and wealthy in the Two Rivers. So even here, even though this is a very small, close-knit community, and like I said, it's not a very wealthy community by any means, she is in some ways starting off on kind of a similar footing as Elaine, as like spoiled rich girl.
How did the ceremony go today? Don't know, actually. We haven't talked yet.
Let me know if you agree with that or what you think about that.
I'm sure.
And then, yes, in another deviation from the novels here, we get a very dark, ominous, dramatic entrance from Lan and Moraine, which he should know better as a Borderlander and someone who knows how the
Name
rules
yourself,
work in
stranger.
Valdara, where you're not allowed to go around cloaked and hooded lest you be mistaken for
Mondragon.
a Fade or a Murdrol.
This is
You'd
Moraine.
think he would know better than to just enter a tavern all cloaked and ominous like that. Rain or no rain, but I have to hand it to Show Moraine for knowing how to make an entrance here.
Can I help you?
And whereas in the
We'll need
show
stables
she
for our
was
horses
going
and a room
under
for them.
an
2 beds
alias
of fresh linen, that's all.
and not
Of course,
and kind
Moraine
of
Sedai.
not openly acknowledging the fact that she was an Aes Sedai, even though it was kind of obvious still if you knew what to look for and what signs to look for that she was. I believe when she first arrived, she was not really announcing herself as an Aes Sedai. Whereas here, she definitely makes sure to flash her ring to the innkeeper to make sure that she gets the special attention
come
that
this
she
way.
wants and needs.
She looks like a normal person. I don't know.
Quiet. Who knows what she can hear? Maybe she's headed to the war in the south. In the stories, they say, one Aes Sedai can turn the battle on her own.
I don't care where she's going to, but we'll all be happier and safer when she's there. Where's Layla? Probably at the forge. Iron's hard to work alone.
I'm also still not sure, after a
Give
couple
Egwene my best.
rewatches now, how I feel about the whole Karen having a wife aspect that they went with here. It doesn't really
doing
do a
here?
whole lot
Everyone is at the
to
inn.
establish him as a character initially. And I've said that, I mean, I can see why him already having lost a spouse, especially in the traumatic way that he does, where it's related to himself and his anger and his wolf powers. He does go through a lot of inner turmoil and conflict in the novels over his abilities and whether or not they are rooted in the shadow, especially with it being tied to
Mum, what you doing?
anger and his whole like
Same thing as
anger
anyone.
management skills or lack
Where's Dad?
thereof, and why it would
I'm
make
at a
him
hotel with
even
you.
more reluctant to step
Who's with the girl?
into and step up into the later roles that things are requiring of him, and why he'd maybe be reluctant to get into another relationship with Fael and lead to some sources of conflict in their relationship that aren't there in the beginning. But I don't know. It maybe could have been a little bit better executed here in these early episodes. I wish we'd gotten a little bit more establishing of his wife and her as a character and their relationship dynamics before she got fridged.
Hey. How about you two?
But like I said, hopefully we will see those building blocks and those story choices that they're making here in the beginning paying off, especially in season 3 with Perrin's return to the Two Rivers and his budding relationship with Fael.
1,000 wars have washed over the lands down mountain.
And now that his wolf
Two
brother
Rivers folk
powers
don't
have been a
any
little bit more
need to pay
established.
attention now than before.
I
War
think
is
it's
just
definitely going
fools killing
to
other fools
feed
for
into
foolish
his inner
causes.
sense of
Aes Sedai don't fight
conflict.
wars. They pull the strings of the world from the White Tower. And if one of them's here,
Then she'll enjoy bell time tomorrow like the rest of us.
Rand, Egwene, why don't you two finish up the dishes?
Of course.
Like, do the parents know when they're leaving them alone? What's gonna go down? I mean, I know in the novels they were all but betrothed and
avoiding
everyone
me.
was like really pushing them together,
Or
and
biding
pushing
my
them
time
to be
until I could get you
together. But I definitely think it's interesting the kind of way they upped the maturity level
How'd it go
here a
today?
little bit. Like I said, when I saw that there were like
Maybe you can at least say
scripts
if it was good or bad.
for these first few episodes and that there was going to be a sex scene between Rand and Egwene, I was like, what? Not in my Wheel of Time. Nynaeve would be pulling her braid until she pulled all her hair out. She knew that they were sleeping together before marriage in the novels. But I do like that we matured the characters up, because them being like very backwater yokels and conservative when it came to relationships and dynamics between the two sexes in the novels, it got a little old and a little grating after a while.
My dad said
for them to be,
I used to big boss.
you know, these still like 18 to 20-year-olds, but very like pearl clutching when it came to things like kissing and sex. So I'm not mad at the way they portray it here, especially with it establishing this close dynamic between these two characters early on.
Is that vein in your pocket?
And I especially loved this scene here between them when he tries to give her the strawberry and she immediately clocks it and calls him out on like, did you really just try to feed me some like warm mushy berry that's been rolling around in your pocket collecting fuzz all day, Randall Thor? Like, points for effort, but I see you. Another establishing shot here, just kind of not only the relationship dynamics between Moraine and Lan, that we see it's kind of very platonic between them, but also just a quick establishing shot here of how the one power works. I'm not sure we really needed the magical chiming bell sound effect there, but I do have to say now, after watching seasons 1 and 2, that I'm glad that my predictions about how they were choosing to portray the weaves and the one power were correct, and that my hunches and my assumptions were correct, that we were kind of seeing things through the other characters' eyes. So at first we're seeing her do things with the power. We can't see what she's doing, but we see the after effects of it with the steam rising from the bath. And then we see kind of from Egwene and Nynaeve's perspective later that she's channeling flows of power of some kind, but we don't really see specifically what they are. We can just kind of see where she's directing them and what she's doing with them by turning them into fireballs and etc., etc. And then as they learn more about the power and the way it works, and we as an audience also learn more about the power and the way it works, we get more complicated special effects with the weaves and seeing the different elements come together. I honestly can't remember. It's been a while since I've done a reread. So let me know in the comments down below. Was this Egwene's original pathway in the novels? Because I feel like I said, the expectation amongst everyone in the Two Rivers was that she was just gonna marry Rand and settle down with him. So I don't know if we ever had this will she, won't she dilemma of training with Nynaeve to become her apprentice or not. The beginning of angsty Rand, leaning into his angst. Now this whistle sound is this one that we come to later associate with Padded Fame. So I think it's interesting here that the first time we hear the whistle, it's with the fade. So I think that's definitely tying the two together right from the get-go and maybe hinting at Padded Fame's true nature. I think they did a really good job with the casting for him because this guy seems like very cheerful on the outset, but he's just got this really off-puttingly creepy, enormously wide smile that I don't like and just gives me the heebie-jeebies for some reason. It's like verging on Mouth of Sauron territory. So kudos to the casting for that one. So we see the establishment here that Padded Fame is a traveling peddler,
my best
and just kind of more early hinting character building for Matt, kind of being more prone to sliding down that slippery slope toward doing evil. He's just more easily tempted to the dark side.
Oh, Dad.
And I
Not
feel
real
like
dark
they
side.
maybe
That's
lean
it.
into that a
like 3
little
months
too
later.
heavily later
Possibly.
on in the show. I
Well,
get that maybe
we
they
might be
wanted
able to
every
sell it here in
character
time.
to kind of have a conflict going
give
on,
you one
and
more.
they needed
Two.
to
Half a
maybe
mile.
give Matt a little bit more
get
to
you 3 lanterns
do
and
in
we'll look
these
at 2 other.
early seasons,
You're right,
because
bastard,
until
but
he
fine.
gets his
Pleasure as
memories
always.
back and gets really established as this dynamic military tactician later on, he doesn't really have a whole lot to do as a character.
You didn't sleep
And I
last
think that's
night?
also an issue that's plaguing
think one of
show
the Eyeless
Matt
is already
in
here?
these early seasons. So I'm hoping that even with the changes
Then
in
we
his
both have
storyline
work to
for
do
season 3, that we'll see a little bit more from him. I feel like they leaned a little bit too hard into the like, oh, he's already drawn to the shadow. He's just prone to the shadow. He's the one that's gonna fall if it's any of them. I don't know. The shadow's going after all of the Emmons Fielders, especially Rand, Matt, and Perrin. So
Why'd
I
come
wish
up
that they'd
here?
maybe emphasized that like
You know what I
all
wonder
of them
about?
are equally prone to being tempted or
I wonder
being
about when life's
forced
here.
to the dark side for one reason
And
or
the 2
another.
rivers.
They all have those weaknesses
Like the
that
house I
can
built.
be exploited.
The wife I have. Got my kids running through these woods just like I did.
I think they do a really good job in these early episodes with establishing not only Egwene's character and her like love of learning
going
and
to
just
know.
desire to be more and make more of herself
I already
and
know.
utilize her talents and her innate skills, but also with Rand and like building him up into this very like kind, good-natured, understanding and caring person where like even though it's hurting him to hear these words from Egwene, he, like you said, he already knew what decision she was going to make. He's already come to terms with it, and even though he still causes him a lot of pain and conflict, and he can't always hide that, he still understands and is willing to let her go and support her.
They call you a leader in this town, Wisdom, and here you are cleaning.
What are you doing here?
I wanted to walk. In the 2 rivers. I could ask the same of you. You're not from here, are you?
The first time I watched this, I couldn't understand
The old Wisdom brought you
why
here when you
Maureen
were a
was being
baby.
so pushy here
A baby whose parents
and
passed.
rubbing Nynaeve the wrong way, but
no
she's
one can remember
probing
exactly
for
when.
answers to the
That's the thing
question
about
of
these little
who
towns. No one
the dragon
keeps
was born
records of
because
anything.
she knows it's one of them,
Births, deaths.
but she's not sure.
doesn't mean
So
we don't
she's
remember.
trying to establish, is Nynaeve from here? Was she born here? And how old she, and when was she born? How old is she?
That old
She's
Wisdom,
trying to eliminate her
the
as a
woman who
candidate.
raised me.
So that's why she's being so nosy.
When she was only 13, she realized she could listen to the wind. And she went to the White Tower. She walked from here.
So we see Nynaeve has a little bit of a chip on her shoulder
Took
here,
months.
especially with this version of the story that she's telling,
And when she got
where
there,
someone
your
went to the
sisters took
tower
one
and
look
was
at her
turned
ragged
away. And that
clothes,
does happen, even in the
her
novels.
peasant
Like
accent.
Queen Morgase herself
and they turned her
had
away.
potential in the power, but was not strong enough of a channeler
She
to
was
receive
small,
any further training.
From a little town.
So they
she
would
remembered.
turn people away if
Until
they
the day
weren't
she
strong
died.
enough. But
So do
in
I.
Nynaeve's eyes and in
See,
her
people
version of the
say you're
story,
too young
the
to
woman
be a
was
wisdom,
turned
and I
away
disagree.
because she
I think
wasn't
you're
seen
strong.
as an equal, or
Even if you have only
wasn't,
had that braid for
like she was just seen as some
what, a year or
podunk
two?
backwater
had it
redneck
for 5.
who wasn't
So that makes
worthy
you
of being among
25.
them. When I'm curious to know
26.
if that was really the case,
doesn't mean I
or if
can't
it
do
was
my
just
job.
that the woman wasn't
And whatever
strong
you may
enough.
think, that is to protect this
And we
town.
will see this issue come up
you
later
have
on
to.
in the series, especially once we get more established
Enjoy
in
your
the White Tower and its inner workings in politics, where that might be a downfall of them in the future and in the long run is not accepting any and
Cheers,
all
boys.
women who have the potential to
Do another
channel,
year of this.
and then wondering why their numbers are slowly dwindling.
All right. Out with it.
Out with what?
Nothing. Bollocks. Something happened with the Gwen.
What happened?
Another very, I think,
Not bad, is it?
well executed is the, I don't know what word I'm searching for, but I'm going to say well executed little establishing shot that not only Nynaeve but also Egwene have this potential to listen to the wind, aka channel.
Do you hear that?
They don't know quite as yet that that's what they are doing or that they have that potential, but it is kind of the secret to Nynaeve being able to listen to and predict the weather is she's able to faintly sense Sidar. And in some cases, if they really want it or need it bad enough, to tap into it and wield it, albeit sloppily or unconsciously.
I don't know.
Not really sure what they were going for in this shot here, other than to really play off of, if not one-to-one copy, those shots we had in the early episodes of Game of Thrones, where we had the White Walkers doing creepy, weird arrangements of corpses and what do they mean. Didn't end up meaning anything in that show, but here at least we saw it was the shape that is known as the Dragon's Fang, which is the symbol of Sidene, male channelers.
Matt, we noticed your luck wasn't really with you last night. So Rand and I...
Because we'll see later that yin-yang symbol,
to buy some lanterns for the
which
girls.
used to be the symbol of the Aes Sedai before the breaking,
We'll be all right.
represented the two halves of the power, the male and female, and now after the breaking it has been split, and we have the white flame of Tar Valon and the dragon's.
Don't start mounting too long.
I won't.
I love the landscape shots. I think they did a really good job with the landscapes and giving you that sense of just the epicness of Randland as a whole.
How long does it take before the Wheel of Time turns someone's spirit back into the world again?
Wish I knew. But I'm sure there's a reason no one can remember their previous lives. All we can do is the best we can with the life that's given to
I
us.
love that quote from Tam here. At first I was a little bit
Take
thrown
comfort from
off
it.
when I heard that Bruce Bolton was cast
But
as
no matter
Tam
what
Althor
happens,
because it was hard not to see him as that Game of Thrones
Angry
character.
face.
But I think he does a really good job
Not a heartbreak.
as Tam here. And then again, just establishing some world building here
The wheel
for
keeps
the
turning.
concept of reincarnation and the turning of the
Always.
wheel and the fact that people believe that their souls will be
try again.
reincarnated,
Never do a little
but
better
that
than the last
you never
time.
have any memories of your past lives. But we're going to see, especially with Rand, once he learns he's the Dragon Reborn, and even characters like Matt later on, that that isn't always the case, and that being able to remember your past lives can be both a blessing and a curse. What do you think Nynaeve was putting the lantern out for? Her parents, maybe? I also wonder who Perrin and his wife were putting out lanterns for. I think it was maybe talked about and tossed about that because of some of the dialogue between them, that they had maybe recently experienced a miscarriage or something like that. So that could be who they were mourning here. Moiraine and Egwene exchanging knowing glances, what does it mean? Foreshadowing, maybe? It's just like, Rio recognize Rio? Because, yeah, I think it's not really touched on a lot in the series so far that women channelers can sense other female channelers and like sense if another woman has the potential to channel, sense if they are actually actively channeling, and sense how powerful of a channeler the other woman is. So Moraine might be sensing something in Egwene here. Oh man, get ready for it. I'm like, I know what's coming here, and I think this is probably one of the best scenes in the entire show so far, just with the way they shot and executed it. Oh, this poor man. We hardly knew ye, and you did not deserve this. But how jarring would that be? To be just living your quaint, peaceful, quiet, cozy village life. You don't even know what this is. Like, you know, you've heard the word Trolloc before, but it's just a bedtime scary story that parents tell their kids. Like, you don't... Like, they don't even know what these things are, and suddenly you're just being attacked by literal monsters. So I think they did a really good job of portraying just the brutal, chaotic nature of such an attack. But yeah, they, like Wayne just said, they don't know that these are Trollocs. They don't know what's going on or what is attacking them or why. And look, these are just defenseless villagers, so they have no idea what's happening or even how to defend themselves. This especially is one of my favorite scenes just because of the camera work as we follow Matt. Like, just keeping it as like all one take, focused solely on him, and this moment where he literally trips over a Trolloc and it's just like, ugh. It's just so, it adds just that touch of realism that you don't know what's going on around you, and like you could just literally trip over a Trolloc eating someone and the Trolloc doesn't even stop what it's doing. So that was one of my favorite shots. Kudos to whoever directed that shot, because mwah, chef's kiss. And then we see a big dilemma and hurdle for Nynaeve here, a big personal issue for her as the wisdom and the healer of the group. Here we see that she's not able to heal someone. She's not able to help them in this situation, so she must feel really powerless. Probably second favorite scene overall so far, just seeing Tam 1v1 a Trolloc like this, because it's established in the books that these are genetically engineered and enhanced monster hybrids of animals and humans. And so not only are they just these monstrous creatures, but they're stronger than the average human. So being able to 1v1 a Trolloc by yourself is no mean feat. Even for a blade master like Tam. But Rand just gotta be like, who the fuck is this man that I thought I knew my whole life? Like, not only did you just whip a katana out of nowhere, but you know how to use it. I hate this for him. I hate this for you, Tam. But good job, Rand, with the assist on that one. I'm glad that we saw Rand was not entirely a helpless little baby here. I hate when we have a fight scene where a character is struggling against someone one-on-one and another character is just standing on the sidelines, not helping at all. Like, throw something. Do something.
I'll get you to Nynaeve.
Not quite sure how smart or logical it is to have Nynaeve just facing down a Trolloc and screaming at it like that, but again, does go a long way towards showing her character. Stubborn, defiant, willing to put herself on the line to protect the ones she loves. And again, I like that we're seeing flows of the One Power here. And at first people were complaining that we weren't seeing the different weaves and all the different elements. And people were complaining that it was lazy or sloppy or not true to the novel. But again, I think if we're looking at things from the perspective of characters as people with the potential to channel, Egwene and Nynaeve would be able to see maybe that Moiraine is doing something here, but not see the individual weaves or the individual flows themselves. But as we learn more about the One Power and how it works, then we start seeing a little bit more of that stuff come into play with the special effects. I love this part too, where we see the women and the women's circle also being defiant and being willing to stand up and defend their village. Even though these are just backwater, cozy villagers who have never seen a Trolloc in their life, don't know what it is that they're even facing right now, they're still gonna stand up and face it, and they're not gonna go down without a fight. That's the stubborn Two Rivers spirit that I'm looking for. I like that we do get to see that she can, that Perrin's wife can fight here because she assists him in the blacksmith forge, which would make her a very strong, muscular person who could be able to defend herself in this kind of scenario. Also, getting to see the dynamic of Moiraine and Lan here and how they work in tandem. And that they're able to just like read each other's moves without having to speak. He knows like automatically like what she's thinking, where to go. Although I'm kind of sorry for the Two Rivers here since she's like utterly obliterating the town square here. I mean, I get it, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do, but not only have these people now been devastated by Trollocs, but half of their town was demolished by the Aes Sedai trying to help. But it is unfortunate that they had to do her like this. Again, poor Layla. We hardly knew you. But it's hard as a viewer to like feel attached to her since we got so very little establishment of her as a character or their relationship really. So like, this sucks, man, but you were in the heat of battle. Shit happens in the heat of the moment, you know? And this is another interesting deviation from the novels, having Nynaeve be dragged off and presumed dead like this. But it does explain, you know, at least for the show, why she doesn't initially leave with them. But then, you know, establish her character and that stubborn determination to protect those that she considers under her charge by tracking them down and following them even after they've already left without her.
There's too many.
Man, Moiraine must be really powerful. in the one power to be able to do all of this on her own.
Light, give me strength.
Love the slow-mo, seeing Lan behind her, watching her back. Really ripping foundation stones out of the inn behind her. It's gonna take a lot of time, effort, and money to rebuild their Maureen. But job well done, I suppose. Gotta hand it to you for just straight flexing with the one power there. And poor Rand. Drug his father through the woods all that way to get him healed by Nynaeve, only to learn that this has happened, that Nynaeve is gone, and your whole village was devastated as well. Because again, we didn't get to see any of this play out in the novels. It all happened off screen and we just get to see the aftermath. So I think they did a really good job with adding some action into this first episode with the Trolloc attack and just the way it was shot and executed. Again, like 10 out of 10. Love the way they did it. They really hooked you in with this first episode. I have to hand it to them on that. And did a good job, I think, with just the scenery and establishing the settings and the characters.
She's gone.
Can you help him?
Oh, man. Don't even know what to do.
My baby. My baby girls. Right. Oh, thank the light.
I do like what it says about Matt's character here, that even amongst all of this crisis and this tumult, and him dealing with his own family dynamics and his own issues, the minute he sees Perrin come out, his eyes immediately go to his friend, and his attention is immediately on his friend. Okay, that's a really cool effect. How they showed the flesh knitting back together. I didn't notice that the first time.
You show up, then he stinks the next day.
And then some early establishing
here for the same
here
reason
of
as I
the
am.
relationship
For you.
dynamic and power struggle that
For the
we'll start to
four of
see
you.
play out between Rand and Maureen. In the novels, he
20 years
definitely
ago,
does
there
not
was a
trust
woman
her
at the White
because she
Tower.
keeps a lot to herself.
An Aes Sedai born with eyes
And doesn't
so
tell
white
them
she couldn't
what
see
her
anything.
plans are a lot of times, and it's
Yet
just kind
still
of
she saw
leading them around,
glimpses
which
of the
he
turning of
comes
the
to
wheel.
really chafe against and resent
The
her
Dark One is
for.
waking.
And so we're
His
already kind of
whispers
seeing
are already
some
in
of
the backs
that.
of our minds. But there will be one who can stand against him. The dragon has been born again. And it's one of you.
Alright, now we're gonna get to the meat and potatoes of the
You've fully lost your
show
mind.
here.
Lorraine,
Personally, I wasn't sure how I felt about them adding the girls into the mix
What are those?
and saying that
The
like
dark ones
any
are
of them could be the
more
dragon, but I see why for a show and wanting to draw in
You're coming with me.
first-time viewers
of you.
and non-book readers
Your life
and
isn't going to
keep
be what you
them
thought.
hooked and keep them watching and
You've
keep
lived too
them
long in these
guessing.
mountains pretending that what happens in the
Why
rest of
we
the
would
world
kind of
won't
want to maybe
affect you.
introduce this
can't just
mystery
leave.
element of
They're after
who's
you.
the dragon,
They will follow
because
you.
as I said in
And
my
if you
initial
stay
review,
This is where they'll
from
come.
the
They will leave nothing and no
outset,
one
from the
standing,
outside
and
of
I
Eye
can't
of the
do anything
World,
to
it's
stop them.
pretty obvious that Rand is
Our
the
only
one of
chance
these
is to
things
reach
who
the
is
White
not
Tower,
like the
and
others,
the other sisters
and
of the
everything
Eyes
is
to
primarily from his point of view. So it's pretty
There's no
obvious
time.
from the get-go that he's the
Leave now.
special and he's the dragon. And even though they did a good job here with the casting of making all of the Two Rivers people have darker complexions and have Rand be
The
the sole
wheel of time
standout
turns,
here, they
ages
don't
come
make
and
it as
pass,
obvious.
leaving memories that
I
become
also like
legend.
Rand's coat again,
Legend
that
fades to myth,
sheepskin,
and even myth is long
reflecting
forgotten when the age that gave it birth
where
comes
he
again.
comes from. And I love that we're getting that opening paragraph from each of the novels here, narrated by Maureen. Instead is closing. Again, I think they did a really good job with
In
this
one
first
age,
episode
called the Third Age
of
by some,
establishing the world
a wind rose
and
in
the
the
settings
mountains
and the
of mist.
characters.
The wind was not the beginning. There are neither beginnings nor endings
So let me
to
know
the
what
turning
you
of the wheel
thought
of
of
time.
this first episode. What did you like? What did you
But it
not
was
like?
a
And I'll see you
beginning.
guys in the next one.